Welcome to day 294, October 21st. I am Pastor Stacy, the family pastor here at Gold Creek.
And I am Pastor Mariah. I'm the children's pastor at our Lake Stevens campus.
And we've actually had the privilege of working together for how many years now? How long has it been?
Six and a half.
No, longer. It feels like
forever.
Like in a good way. In a good way.
Most of the time.
Yes.
No, 6.5 years.
But she is amazing,
Wow.
and I'm honored to be discussing today's reading. And if you have been sticking with it, congrats to you.
Great job.
I have to confess, I've gotten a little bit behind.
We catch up though.
Yes.
There are times when we go like a week and we're like, oh, I got to get back up. Okay. So then we like power read and then we're back in.
Yes.
So
And every week at Devotions, you've probably heard this, but we get tickets just like we've done on Sunday mornings for all of you, or we draw for winners. But we each get a ticket on Thursday if we are up to date.
yes.
And when you don't get that raffle ticket, it's kind of like the walk of shame to your chair.
It is. She goes, are you up to date? And I'm like, I'm not. Just leave me alone.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, the number of tickets in the bucket to draw from are smaller when
Yes.
people aren't up to date. So you have a better chance of winning.
Yeah, we win free lunch from the cafe, or sometimes empty gift cards from Pastor Dan. That's fun too.
Starbucks gift cards
Yeah.
with $0 on them.
Yeah. All right. So in the Old Testament, we are in Jeremiah 37.
Yeah.
And we're talking about King Zedekiah. And it's another one of those stories and legacies where they did not listen to what the Lord had to say.
You feel like they would learn.
Right. And I feel like typically we hear about one dynasty that they did what was pleasing to the Lord. And then the next one, they did not follow what was in the Lord.
Yes.
But I feel like the last few have not been great.
No, and it always bothers me when I see them not following what the Lord does or tells them to do, because I'm like, you see the legacy or the dynasty before you thrived under the Lord's provision, and then you disobey. Great, now watch what happens. You're going to fall apart. Great.
know.
It's like we knew this was coming.
But, as you say that, it makes me think of our families through generations, where people that are, raised by godly parents and then kids that fall away and they know better. They know the truth. And, sin has been in the world from the beginning. And that is just an example of there's not always
slope.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree.
But we also hear about Jeremiah, who is the prophet who hears from God. And even though Zedekiah is not doing what he's supposed to, he still goes to Jeremiah and is like, hey, can you pray for me and for my attendance? And you had a good insight of like today, how that.
I feel like today, those people who are not believers and something happens in their life and I always see like on Facebook, somebody that I know that is not a Christian, and they'll post like,
oh my goodness, I apologize.
They'll post like, oh, if you're the praying type, or send your prayers and good thoughts to me or something. And it's like, well, you don't believe my prayer works, so why are you asking for my prayer? And it's exactly like King Zedekiah. He's sitting there like, hey, so listen, I'm not going to listen to your advice, but can you tell me what God said anyways? And I'm not really going to listen to your prayer, but can you pray for me anyways? And he just keeps going back. I don't know why.
Over and over. And then it's kind of this random insert on 37:12. So, he's prayed for, he prays for Zedekiah. He constantly telling him, you're not going to like my news.
No.
And then on a side note, so Jeremiah was headed to the territory of Benjamin to claim his share of the property among his relatives. So in my mind, I envision he's gotten this news of an inheritance and he's got this property and, I'm going to go check out my property. Mm-hmm. And on his way, he's arrested.
Yeah.
For defecting the Babylonians.
Yeah, they're basically saying, you were going to join the Babylonians. He's like, but I wasn't. I really wasn't. They're like, yes, you were. You're going to jail. And so then then the king calls him out of jail and says, hey, tell me what God said. And he's like, well, you're not going to like it again. And the king's like, well, tell me anyways. So he does. And then he goes, by the way, please, Jeremiah says, King, please don't send me back to that jail. It's awful. And he goes, okay, I'll put you in the prison jail instead. Still jail. The guy's done nothing wrong.
Right.
And yet the king is keeping him in jail and then continues to pull him out of jail to give him news and pray for him. It's just like this weird dynamic. I'm sitting there like, you're utilizing him for yourself and not doing what he's telling. I don't know. It's just
and the first jail was a converted house. It was Jonathan's house. And I was like, okay, what kind of an HGTV like situation do we got going on here?
Do you think they had shiplap on the walls?
Exactly. Did Joanna Gaines like, oh, okay, so we're making this into a prison now. And it said that he was put into a dungeon cell. And I'm going, was that somebody's bedroom?
Yeah.
Again, this was Jonathan's house.
Or maybe they built below it.
I don't know.
Down. Maybe you walk in and there's like the sheriff's living quarters, and then you dig down, and that's where the dungeon cells are.
Yeah. I had a hard time visualizing.
We used a nice modern steel instead of the old industrial steel.
Yeah.
For the aesthetics.
Shiplap. That's so good. Yeah. And then the same thing, I had the same notes about how he's like, no, don't put me back there. Okay, I'll put you in this other one.
Yeah.
And then gave him a loaf of bread every week. And he
was good to him, but he wasn't good to him.
The king, he came across very moody.
Oh, that's good. Like a good woman. He just could not decide what he wanted.
That's good. In New Testament, we are in 1 Timothy, and I had written down a couple things. I know you had some great things that stood out to you, but in 1 Timothy 6:6, true godliness with contentment is itself great wealth. And I have been taught that pretty much my whole life, that, be grateful for what you have, that, money, the love of money can really cause a lot of problems.
Yeah.
And I do recognize also that money can solve a lot of problems.
Yes, that's
but
true.
I've known a lot of people that are extremely wealthy and they are not content.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it says just in the next verse right after, we brought nothing into this world. We take nothing with us when we leave. And so just this idea of people hoarding and trying to hit the next thing. And I really liked what it said in verse 9. It was kind of, we always want to, I think it's normal to want to get more, better provide for your family. But then when that becomes your only motivation and you're trying to be rich just to achieve the next thing, verse 9 says, but people who long to be rich fall into temptation and are trapped by many foolish and harmful desires that plunge them into ruin and destruction. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a little condemning there. So you got to be really careful.
Well, and just how important our relationships are with one another. And especially these last couple of years have been so divisive. And it just is a great reminder to me when I think of contentment. I think of having grace for one another, for ourselves, and being kind to each other. I continued on. Oh, this one.
Yeah.
6:20. Avoid godless, foolish discussions with those who oppose you with their so-called knowledge. And again, we are inundated with so much information from every news outlet that we could think of, from every article. If you want to have an argument with something, you can find all the information for either side.
Yeah.
And so that's where I think, again, faith comes in. The Bible never changes. That information has been true and the truth and real from the beginning till now, and will continue to be so. And that is one constant that I think we need to hold on to.
And I think I'm going to jump back a couple verses because I really loved this section from 17 to 18 where he talks about teach those who are rich in this world not to be proud and trust their money. And then in verse 18, it says, tell them to use their money to do good. Yeah. They should be rich in good works and generous to those in need. Always be ready to share with others. And I immediately, and it's maybe because I knew I was doing it with you, but I immediately thought about Stacy, and just Stacy's a gift giver. So there's most of you who have probably received a Stacy gift at some point, and she just will randomly show up and she's got this gift for you. I thought about you. Here's this thing. And I remember we were at her house. Me and her daughter were at her house one time, and we were talking about our marriages, and she goes, oh, have you ever read His Needs, Her Needs? And I was like, no, we haven't. And Haley goes, no, we haven't. So she goes, she just orders them on Amazon. She has 2 copies for each of us, one for us, one for our husbands, delivered. She wraps them in a cute little bow and she delivers them. And it's just like the amount of generosity that you have, knowing that, I mean, it's how you receive love by giving gifts.
Absolutely. It is a blessing.
But we receive love as well by getting those gifts. And so it's just like, yeah, the money's not. Although I'm sure Greg would like it if you kind of reined in the parties a little bit.
He has made the comment. I kind of did that same thing with another friend of mine who just was so there for me in such an incredible time of need. And she had come over late at night to help me with some things. And she was commenting on my bathrobe, actually. And she was like, I love that. That's so, I said, oh, it's my favorite. I'm going to get you one right now. And my husband was sitting there and her husband goes, no, tell her to stop spending money. And my husband's like, do you think I have not tried that?
Yes.
I do rein it in every now and then.
I mean, listen.
But back to the books. So how are you and Mark doing with the books?
I'm going to need you to not ask me that question. They're on my bookshelf, so I didn't get rid of them. I am eager to go through them. I mean, they've been around for a long time for a reason.
They are very good. Absolutely. And so you heard it here. We can all hold her accountable. So when you see her next time, you ask her, hey, have you guys started His Needs, Her Needs?
Okay, we'll do it. I'll do it tonight.
All right.
Yikes.
Proverbs 28. A person without self-control is like a city with broken down walls. And I mean, we know, like in our separate lives and even together goals that we started a workout program. Oh, God bless Nadia Bosch. We love her.
God bless you, Nadia.
She can motivate you.
She can.
And we were doing incredible.
We were doing so good. We were feeling so strong. I remember
looking good.
But remember, I'd always be like, I can feel my metabolism working faster because I'm hungry all of the time. I was so proud. I was like, this is great.
And we were encouraging one another.
We were texting in every day. Finish day 29. Finish blah, blah. And then we finished that program, started the next program. And then we just, I don't think we liked it as much. You said you liked it. I don't think you actually liked it because you didn't do it. And all of a sudden we're like, we're just not doing it anymore.
I know. And so that is just one example. And you know, I was telling you earlier as well that my husband and I are the worst. We can talk each other into anything. We'll be eating really well and being disciplined and healthy. And then it'll be, do you want to go out to dinner? Yeah. What are you thinking? Mexican? Oh, that sounds good. And then we'll go and eat 4 baskets of chips and salsa.
They're so good though.
And then so mad at each other afterwards.
Well, I also think about self-control. I mean, physically, that's one that we've both related with. But I also think about my self-control when it comes to hitting the snooze button too many times in the morning, or, you know, just not, just
or
10 more minutes, 10
on
more minutes,
with our
staying on with our thing, or even like just getting off. Like my husband and I have said so many times, we're going to be off of our phones. We're going to leave our phones downstairs or be off before we go to bed. And then we're laying in bed watching TikTok till 3 a.m.
Yeah.
And so it's just the self-control in so many aspects. It's not just that physical stuff. And it's like, oh, it's just like a city with broken down walls. How awful. And
well, and if you go back to even our original with Zedekiah and talking about the families that did follow God and how much better their life was when we put God first, when we are disciplined, things really do go much better.
Well, and you think about the idea of a broken down wall. Back in these days, if a city didn't have fortified walls, it was easy for the enemy to come in, and it was easy for the enemy to overtake the city. And so when we allow our lives to have these broken down walls, it's not, if we view our souls as the city, and if we let these walls be broken down, it's not fortified anymore. And then all of a sudden the enemy comes in.
Yeah, that's good.
In all of these self-control or lack of self-control, you're just giving a foothold for the enemy to just come right in and destroy everything you've built. So
I love that. That's a great reminder. I needed that. Well, that's all we've got for today. So stick with it. We are getting so close. And I can't wait to see. I'm sure Pastor Dan's going to have some great celebration for the end of the year.
I'm sure. You guys are doing amazing. Great
And then we
job.
can start all up again on January 1st. So thank you for joining us and have a great rest of your week.